Philosophers talk to our times, towards an ethnography of a poisoning mind. Now, before I begin, I am not an essentialist about human thought. I hope that's clear. Oh, I believe in human thought, and I believe in the ability of humans to make endless different connections between points, to understand the world one way, and then to shift their heads and shake them a few times and understand it another. And that it is in those ways to rethink who and what we are. In, if you like, the ways to burn new connections within our brains, to open up, light up different areas in different ways, that our freedom lies. We're not free from in terms of making choices. I'm a Spinozian, or for that matter, a Leibnizian about that. The moment you make the choice, you are not free. And there is nothing free about choosing between different ways to poison yourself. But we are free in choosing the circumstances of our choice. To varying degrees, in varying different occasions, we can always open ourselves up then to different ways to think a situation, to outthink it, to rethink it, to rethrow it. It's where freedom and knowledge are totally indistinguishable. And so virtue is freedom, and virtue is the reward. I'm close to Spinoza there. And in this context, I'm not anti-artificial intelligence. The current form is misnamed. It shouldn't be being called intelligence. That was a sales pitch. But I'm not anti anything that I could understand would open up, allow humans to rethink the way they connect their brains together. And I'm not even an essentialist about saying, well, it's mechanical. We shouldn't be using mechanical aids. Well, if they work and we can power them, why not? I have, of course, an immediate caveat on that, a double caveat. First of all, it certainly isn't worth rogering the planet so that we can think slightly differently. So if the AI involves creating huge numbers of data centers, which it appears to be, which then suck water and energy out of existing systems and imperil humanity, then it's not worth a brass fart. But also, I do think that the artificial intelligence has to be genuinely augmenting. That is, it's got to genuinely increase the amount of ways you can think and not make you merely reliant on it. And if it does make you reliant on it, I'm a little bit essentialist about self-reliance in thinking. If you ask me, would I ever use it, for instance, to read Spinoza? I've seen Spinoza scholars do it. The answer is no, I wouldn't. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I wouldn't do that. I would think that it would be a failure of my scholarship, my failure of my ability to hold 100 ideas in my head and juggle them. But I would understand others doing it, and I would be interested. And it is certainly true that on the realm of maths, AI will be able to go through, if there is something like the Riemann conjecture, if there actually is an example that disproves it, because one of the ways you disprove maths is to find a single example where it isn't true, and AI will do that. It will find all the counter examples. It did it recently. People are saying it's proved a theory in maths. It hasn't. It's disproved a theory. That's much easier. Just saying. I know I'm a pedant about it, but I might not even be right. They might have actually proved something. But everything I've seen is disprove something, which is easier. And I'm sure it'll do all of that and be helpful in various situations. I have no doubt that some of that is true. But, and this is of course the but, I also have although I could easily imagine then a world in which AI helped humans think, I absolutely can't imagine it in the current way it is being imposed. I can't imagine it in the current economic political system. It would seem to me impossible that it did that, particularly as it is being imposed by billionaires, and you can see the hard-on through their canvas trousers as they come for us. You can see what they want to make out of it. And they're trying to impose it in their own way, in their own image, in order to make them billions, in order to gut the internet as we know it and change it into a strange or odd beast full of lies and shifts that will look better on the outside, but rather replace thinking with its ultra-processed version, giving us little gobbet facts, making our minds utterly dependent then upon technology, their technology, so that we cannot think without them. And that world, the one I think we're actually heading towards, I loathe from the bottom of my heart and always would. So it is never the technology, it is the way it is imposed, absolutely. Which is, of course, actually quite annoying if you think about it. But why? What is it then that, how, actually, let's do it by this way. It's a much more powerful question. How is this happening? I don't mean how is the internet being allowed to be changed into AI, because we all know how that is happening. It's happening through back channels of government, and because the government have been promised that it will increase their power. I meant, why is it so powerful in our mind? That's why I've got this ambivalence about the question. To do that, I think you have to go back to what psychology it is exciting. Now, I'm a philosopher, so I tend to think about philosophical psychology, I'm afraid, before you all get terribly excited about your psychological models. And one of the things I can't help thinking that is that AI is an experiment in Humean thought. Hume is totally misread, in my humble opinion, because he is constantly read as kind of an empiricist who was had a theory that became a theory of knowledge. So he's read as an epistemologist about the way you learn about the world, about skepticism, about ideas just being bundles of thoughts, myself not really existing as just a bundle of thoughts. And then he wrote something about passions. So all the emphasis is kind of on the negative. Now, I have talked constantly about the idea of vivacity within Hume, which I actually find one of the most fascinating philosophical ideas I know. And I've also talked a little bit about the way he thinks reality hangs together, what makes all the individual perceptions cogent. And that is, of course, principles. Principles are learnt. They come from outside. And he has two great principles and a derived principle. The great two, the elemental two, are contiguity, the fact that one perception automatically goes into another perception. And that is kind of conjured in our minds from outside. Oh, our minds have to be receptive to it. We have to be good at holding two perceptions, two impressions, one upon the other in our brains. But he thinks that's actually solved by vivacity, by the extra. It does that. It naturally goes from one idea to the other idea if they're in the brain at the same time or around the same time. So that the structure comes from neither inside nor outside, but in the kind of luminous membrane by which the outside registers its existence in my mind, makes itself different from my mere imagination. And then there is resemblance. And resemblance is the way that if I feel one feeling, fury, it's very like anger, I can hardly tell them apart, and it runs very quickly into hate. Or love and joy are really the same emotion, because emotions are messy. Each one resembles another, and so to feel one, you also are also feeling the other. In terms of the human brain, you might say that they come from various bits of the zones within the brain, and the same feeling could be being used in lots of different ways as the same set of chemicals are manufactured, so that we tell them apart as we wish to. And what has this got to do with AI? Well, that's very clearly the way AI is riding us, isn't it? Because they give you the two models by which your mind is being constantly sculptured by algorithms. Algorithms that learn about us, that learn about how we run our minds when we do things, that suggest them things based on our normal actions. Both our actions in terms of contiguity, all those suggestions you get. Oh, at this time you usually do this. Or more subtle, your search engine knows that at early morning I look up French films, so it suggests to me French films in the early morning. Doesn't do it later, I notice. And at certain times I look up news. It always suggests to me those. And so it always has what it thinks I want to look at there waiting for me. And it could be thoroughly innocent, maybe. But what it does is it burns the thread around and around and around in my brain until it becomes the very habit of my life, and until it becomes almost an unquestionable truth, because my computer has learnt about me and gives me what I was doing anyway, back as a constant rhythm. So you get increasingly caught within the trackways of your world, increasingly likely to only follow those trackways, around and around and around. Ultimately then, it undermines any sense of freedom, that is the ability to rethink what you're doing, by simply making what you always do seem totally sacrosanct. And secondly, of course, it works by resemblance. If you look up scary stories about the climate burning, it will find you thousands more scary stories about the climate burning. Or if you look up stories about immigrants, it will find you a million different stories of immigrants. You can see it. The minute you leave your own quiet little trackway, your own little region of the internet, your own little contiguous kingdom, and go into another kingdom, jump. Suddenly, the internet feels a very strange and very alien place, full of people saying things you couldn't believe, not in your bit of the internet. Totally unexpected, random and scary. I make a point about following various people who I don't think I'd at all like in real life, just to try and learn about other kingdoms, other worlds, other things the internet is doing, because I just don't think there's any other way of doing it. You have to go beyond your comfort zone from time to time. Otherwise, you are just caught in we call them bubbles, but they're really kingdoms. They're a little kingdom within a kingdom, a contiguous kingdom that the internet has quietly built as it links you to people who are like you. You see, and creates, therefore, a subdomain that it can predict and manage, control. I'm not saying it willfully controls it. It doesn't. It simply learns that what you all do. It sees that they are contiguous to each other, that they're all connected one to the other, that lots of people are following the same trackways, and it puts them under the same trackways. Likewise, it sees that certain emotions go together, that if you are full of fear, and in this, I should probably split this way, there are certain emotions that are much easier to allow you to form stable ideas, stable little kingdoms, fear being the obvious. Joy is always a bit difficult, because joy is a bit incandescent. It tends to go to other worlds and other worlds and other worlds. But to hold you in a single kingdom, to make you become predictable so that it can actually say with certain what you will do, fear is a very good one. It holds together then a kingdom. It finds resemblances. That fear was like that fear was like that fear. So we can create an entire kingdom of fear and anxiety for you. It allows you, it prehends the actions that you will take because it knows what you will do. And so it can suggest them. It will cultivate then, because that's its job, what you will become. Now, in all of this, as I say, there's no conscious effort. It's just the way the algorithm works. Why? Because it wants to keep you online. It wants to keep you engaged. It wants to keep you clicking while it tries to sell you things, while it works out how to take your fear and turn it into product, while turn you into a product through it, while it learns about all the contiguous kingdoms that you are, and then finds products that will fit within these kingdoms. It is part of the problem of the internet making us a product, is it means our minds become sculptable. But fascinatingly, with my philosophical head on, they become sculptable by Humean principles. For Hume, a great idea like the self, or God for that matter, was only held together by emotional intensities that gave you kind of the intense reality that the idea itself lacked. The idea itself had no vivacious truth. It always was just vague and vapid. But if you could burn an intense feeling into it, you would know and feel its truth. That's why Hume argues that home and the feeling of having a habitat that you have built is integral to our feeling of our selfhood. Or religion and God are caught up. Intense emotion and believing in a divinity are one and the same. It's how he's answering Plato's ancient problem about how ideas exist as fixed creatures, while the world is all twist and tumult. And Hume is suggesting in principles and in emotions, that is how you do it. And what is, of course, happening on the internet is that is precisely the way it works, the way it rides our mind. It builds contiguities, creates, therefore, little kingdoms within kingdoms, linking us up with other people who also follow the same journey across a day or across a set of politics, so that we're all in it together, all manipulatable one with the other, And secondly, it manipulates emotions. It creates stable emotions, relatively stable emotions associated with a whole set of images. By stable, I mean a set of fears, anxieties, and hopes that you can go around in a fairly predictable pattern. Why? Because it keeps you online. Why? Because in telling you a little story about your life, it can endlessly insinuate extra product. And of course, my problem with AI is that it's superb at that. It's not because of its inadequacies, although it has a myriad, that I condemn it. It's rather that it is very likely to carry on burning those kingdoms within our brains, and we are totally unable to stop it, because that is the way we think. It's taken Hume then and turned him into a demon to ride our souls. So what can you do? Well, as I said, I think it is a human duty these days to always take yourself beyond your comfort zone, to always look at things you don't like, look at the other side, look at the things that make you uncomfortable, and think why they make you uncomfortable and why others believe them, so that you are not automatically just a bot being made artificial, so that in the end you keep your intelligence real and stop it becoming ultra-processed stodge for a machine that is trying to predict and then create your desires.